Hey guys, this is Dinosaur Drawer, and this is the second part on how to draw Mothra from Godzilla King of the Monsters. In this part, I'm sorry, excuse me. In this part, we're gonna pay a little bit more attention to doing some shadows and doing some highlights. So we're gonna start with the eye on his wing, and we're just gonna darken this whole pupil a whole lot more, and the rest of it we're just gonna leave it white because we might be able to get a little bit of color into this drawing later on. But make sure that the transition between dark and light uh, is a little bit smoother than what you would expect. I'm sorry for the background noises. My dog is trying to find a place to sit down, so he's just literally walking in circles and stuff and until he finds his place. So maybe I will zoom in a little bit more so that you can see it a little bit better. So the eye is just gonna, on top it's just gonna be very, very dark. And then it just gets a little lighter, but the circle shape is completely black. So, I mean the outer lines are completely black. So that's what I'm trying to do right now. Trying to get these shapes in as well. And then there's a kind of a shape like this, and it brings a little bit more shadow inward into his eye, like this. Just slightly, not too much. Now we're just gonna try and get the transition between dark and light a little bit smoother. Especially around the pupil, it's gonna be very dark. So something like this, and on the outer edge it also has a little bit of a darker edge. It's not darker, but it's almost like it's trying to blend in with the color. And especially over here, there's a little bit more of darker tones here. Something like this. So now we're gonna try and do the same thing on this side. And this one appears to be a lot darker. We're just gonna try and do the same thing as what we did with the other one. And like I said, this one appears to be a lot darker, so it has a lot more shade over here going behind the wing. Something like this would be okay, I guess. Alright, so now we're gonna zoom out and see what it looks like. So I am pretty happy with the way that it looks. Alright, now we need to kind of get a little bit of shadow into the this side of his wing. Just a little bit of it. Well, actually, I'm seeing something right now which is something that I didn't notice before. It looks like he has two sets of different wings over here. Or maybe it's just something that is attached to this wing. And we can also see it on this one, but it just looks something like this. Alright, so this is going to be very dark, but it also has a lot of highlights. So we need to pay attention to those highlights. And now we need to keep applying this dark edge, I guess. And over here we have a highlight, but we're just gonna go over that, and later on we're gonna go back in with a white gel pen. And it just stays very dark until over here kind of goes in a little bit more into his wing. And this area around his eye is a lot darker than the surrounding area, so we're just gonna make it a lot darker. It's also a little bit darker than the middle tone, but not as dark as the edge of the outer edge of the circle. So we're just gonna make a very dark area around his eye. Well, not his eye, but the eye on his wing. We want to leave a little area for the this white stripe that he has going on his wing. Make sure you don't go over that too much. So now we can start fading in the shade of his wing, and it just gets a little lighter up here. And it goes on into a very light area there, but this still has to be a lot more darker than what it is right now. And it's also very dark over here. And it kind of keeps getting darker and darker throughout his wing. It stops about over here. So then it just goes this way, the darker shades. There's a lot of dark tones right here. And like I said, it gets lighter and lighter as we progress through this area. About over here is where it stops, I guess. But the way you have to draw this is that the closer you get to the eye, the darker the shades get. And this just kind of keeps on going. And I would say it stops about over there. And then it continues again over here. The shade is also very dark, but it's not as dark as this. It's just finding the right kind of tone for this area. And this area also exists out of a lot of shapes and circles and all kind of things. Just never leave it blank on the wing of this this creature. Make sure you do have a couple of things that make it look like there is a lot of detail on it. And make sure you don't go over the areas that are supposed to be white stripes. You can tweak a little bit with the shape and everything, but just make sure you don't really go over it with shading. I'm just trying to build up the wing out of particular sections, just some shapes that are in there. And then this line just goes on until over there. And now we're gonna get a little bit more to the starting of the wing, and then over here there is a little bit more shadow over here than there is at the other areas. And that makes one wing about done, I would say. So we did use a lot of time to get it right, of course, but I am happy with the result. So now we just have to copy part of it to this wing over here. Just the same kind of concept on making this edge of his wing a little bit thicker, getting a little bit shadow on it. And up here it gets really, really, really dark. And also over here, what I forgot was this area is supposed to be very dark as well. Just the tip of the wing, as well as over here. Alright, so now around his eye again, we're gonna get a lot of shadow, a lot of dark tones. And then just make sure you try and fade it in with the rest of this area, and try and get the same kind of result as you did over here. And this is again a white white stripe kind of area over there. Don't go over that too much, and just try and fade it in with the lighter areas. and it's starting to look quite okay, quite nice. And if you wanna have that white stripe to stand out even more, you can even go over it with an eraser. So make sure that it's quite good visible, and maybe even a little bit of a harder edge with your pencil on places where you can't really see too much of it anymore. Like so. And that's starting to look quite realistic actually. So now we also want to make sure we build this section up out of shapes and things. So just make sure that you put in a little bit of detail up there as well. And it's starting to get a little bit more shadow. And there's also a white area like this over here, which we didn't put in yet, which I kind of forgot to put in. Okay, so those are the two wings. Now for this wing, it looks like this area is also quite a bit darkened, like this. But we also have a couple of shapes like these. Which get smaller and smaller, like that. And then we have a couple of them over here as well. And a couple of them over here as well. This area is going to be dark. This area is going to be very light. And then this area will be very dark as well, but we do have a couple of highlights in it, so don't go over those highlights. Try and get it as accurate as you can compared to mine. And it's okay if it's not perfect, because nothing really is perfect. Alright, make that one darker, that one as well. Kind of goes with a shape like this and like this. It's very hard to get this right. And it's also very hard because I didn't really include this in the starting phase of the drawing, which I actually should have, because I didn't really notice that there were so many details and things in it that I kind of forgot about it. But yeah, now what we need to do is kind of get a fade in it, so that it has a smooth transition from dark to lighter. Yeah, this basically is a very hard area. I'm really sorry that I didn't notice this. And over here basically what we have is a couple of highlights that we can see from over here. Not sure why it isn't on the other side, but I guess this is how it is. And then just darken it in. Make sure you don't make some areas darker than other areas in your drawing, because that way your drawing will look less realistic, and we don't really want that to be the case. Okay, so now the only thing we need to do is get some shading into the body of Mothra. And basically what you want to do is darken all the parts that are on the under side of his body. So everything underneath his legs, everything underneath his head and his body, and that way you will kind of create a realistic looking shadow. Alright, and now we're gonna do the same thing for his head. And the rest of his body, of course. And also try to give it a realistic looking shade over his whole body. Well, not I mean a realistic looking tone, that's what I meant. And there's not really a lot that I can explain about this part. It's just getting the tone in, and that's basically all. And there we have it. We are about done. I'm quite happy with the way that it turned out. It looks pretty accurate and at the same time pretty realistic in my opinion. Alright, so now I need my autograph. And the name of the creature. Oh. Alright, so if you liked the video, leave a like. Comment below what you think about the video and the drawing in general. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you won't miss a single video. So this was Dinosaur Drawer, and goodbye.